Hello and welcome to the latest webinar from Search Laboratory. Today we're going to be talking about Google Analytics App and Web, and specifically why now is the right time to set it up. So a little bit about us at Search Laboratory. So we're an integrated digital marketing agency. We're also a Google marketing platform reseller. We're 150 strong, and we have offices across both Leeds in the United Kingdom and New York in America. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to take about 30 minutes for the workshop piece to go on, and then afterwards, if you would add any questions to the chat, we can answer them in full at the end. Just a little bit about the presenters today. So myself, Jim McCann, I'm the head of digital strategy at Search Laboratory. I'm a big user of Google Analytics, and I'll be doing a demo shortly. And we also have Paul.
Hi guys, so yeah, I'm Paul Shearing. I kind of lead the analytics team here at Search Laboratory, so we'll obviously be very involved in this tool over the coming years.
So without further ado, I'll hand over to Paul, who can take us through a little bit more about what App and Web is.
Yeah, so thanks Jimmy. So thanks everyone for joining us today. So yeah, App and Web, a new product announced by Google. So today we'll be talking about it. First off, we'll start by just explaining exactly what it is and why. And then I'll run through some of the key differences between the two, between the current version of Google Analytics and the new one, followed by a bit of a demonstration by Jimmy of some of those reporting capabilities. And then we're just going to have a little bit of a discussion at the end around why you need to get on this now, because a lot of people will think about it and then leave it, but we kind of need to get everyone doing this now, really. So yeah, so exactly what is App and Web? So I suppose to do this, I mean, App and Web is really Google Analytics' next generation of Google Analytics, but to kind of give you the background, I'll just start by kind of going through and running through really where Google Analytics has come over the years. So Google started out in 2005 by introducing what we now know as Google Analytics. And there's been loads of, you know, at the time it was a bit groundbreaking compared with everything else out there, and Google have kind of slowly kind of iterated and evolved that product into what we have now, which is kind of an enterprise class kind of market leading web analytics tool. And like I said, there's been lots of iterations and improvements over the years. For those that are familiar, you've got the Urchin GAJS Analytics and the different app SDKs. But the similarity between all of these is that the kind of underlying framework and data framework underneath it all has really been the same, and that has just evolved and incrementally changed slightly. And a big key to that is back in 2005 when the tool was first kind of started out, people didn't have smartphones, apps weren't a thing, and the tool was designed for websites. So yeah, so like I say, it's come a long way over the years. Apps got bigger and bigger, and in 2016, Google introduced Firebase, which was their app platform, and with that, Firebase Analytics, which has been in beta for a few years, and that was a very specific app-specific framework. So you could always use Google Analytics, the old version, to track apps, but they had this separate version which they were starting to encourage and push people to do, and it was a different kind of way of tracking, so not related to the old version. And then, kind of at the end of last year, Google announced kind of what they're calling App and Web Properties, which is basically their next generation kind of Google Analytics platform. And you know, like I said before, all the changes up to this point have been incremental changes and improvements, but Google have gone back to the drawing board really, and they've designed a entirely different kind of underlying framework and data kind of structure that underpins the whole product. And with that, like I said, Google Analytics that we've got today is kind of a market-leading enterprise web analytics package, but Google felt it could be better. And so in doing this and going back to the drawing board and coming up with this new kind of version, they've looked to address a few of the kind of problems that were holding them back from being even better. And I'll go through a few of those shortly, but to put it simply, they're much more suited to the mechanisms for tracking are much more suited to apps and websites equally. It's going to work much better in a multi-device kind of world that we've got today. And the way that we track is actually a lot simpler, and that'll bring a lot of benefits in itself, really. So, yeah, with that kind of overview of what it is, I was just going to dive through some of the key differences, really. And there's lots of differences, so there's a lot to learn. But I'm going to take you through some of the main ones that I think everyone should be getting excited about and looking forward to, really. So the first one, cross-platform tracking. So it's a better way of joining users. So to start this off, I'll just, we can see on the screen now that we've got a kind of typical path of somebody just using one device to, view a website a few times, maybe while they're researching buying a product. And this probably was a lot more typical of how people did things in 2005 when Google introduced the original version. And Google has a very good way of dealing with that. So in a view in the current Google Analytics, it uses a client ID, which is an ID it puts in a cookie that joins all these sessions together. And that works well for that single device. But as we know, and as I mentioned before on this call, that isn't the way people do things these days. People have several devices which they will be looking at your website in the research phase of buying a product. And currently, it's not easy to track that well. Google Analytics, the current version, has a way of dealing with that. They've got a thing called the user ID feature, which requires you to output your CRM user ID in the tracking code when people log in. And then you have to create a separate view that's kind of siloed from the main client ID view. And it will join all these logged in sessions up together so you can understand your users as they come back. Now, a massive problem with this, which really holds it back from being a great feature, is the fact that if you're not logged in, those sessions and hits do not get included in that view. And like probably most of you will imagine, most websites, the visitors and sessions are anonymous visits, so it misses a lot of that information out. So the first big thing, and I think the best thing of the new platform, if you've got a logged in kind of solution, is the fact that it will now be able to join up those in a much better way. So to explain how that will work, once you've logged in on a certain device and output your CRM user ID in the tracking code, the app and web property will join up every single session using that user ID and not the underlying client ID. So once you've logged in on a device, everything from that point onwards, whether you're logged in or not, will be joined up using the user ID. And likewise, if you log in on several different devices, that same ID will join up all of those sessions. So you can see in the example on the screen, the app and web attribution path is going to join all of those sessions together. And what you'll get is a much more reliable metric. So your new users metric, your users metric will actually be quite useful, whereas currently there's quite a lot of flaws in it because it's actually the same user on different devices, etc. The other difference is that it'll fall back to the kind of old-fashioned client ID method if people aren't logged in. So you get all your data in the same view, It's just the way you can join them up with the user ID. It will do a much better job of doing it. So this is really exciting news. On a similar topic, so currently if you have an app and a website, the kind of recommended way of implementing Google Analytics would be to have a property for your iOS app and your Android app and maybe your website. And these are all siloed properties. Unless you've got 360, the way you can roll them up, and even then it's kind of semi-siloed. Whereas the app and web, you have one property and you send all your data into that same property for your kind of company or brand. And we do this in what are called streams. But the main thing is everything's in one big collection of data. And it's not siloed, so it's easy to join it, especially if you've got this user ID feature, which I've just mentioned. Not currently available, but there will be introducing a kind of equivalent of, well, the measurement protocol feature, which will let us send in different streams from things like your CRM or your point of sale software if you're a retailer. And again, this is going to be great because if it's going to be joined up with user ID, it'll give you all your data in one central place that you can really start to understand what your customers are doing. So that's one great thing. The next thing really is the big difference is a kind of simpler architecture. So what we see on screen now is kind of how current universal Google Analytics does this. And as you probably all know, that every time someone views a page or does an event on a website or an app, it sends all these hits, and it kind of Google periodically kind of sessionizes those hits into a session, and it represents that underlying data as one record for every session with these kind of nested tables of hits. That it's just a slightly more complicated way of storing it and accessing it. It's harder for people to understand, so people sometimes make mistakes when they're doing analysis. So that's kind of how it is now. It's a little bit more complicated. The new kind of framework is really just a very, very simple flat table. So you've got one main concept of an event, be it in a page view, a session start, a video interaction. You've got one main concept of an event, and you just send a stream of events, and it's a flat table, which is much simpler to understand. And this kind of brings a lot of benefits really, which I'll kind of run through here. First and foremost, it'll be faster because the way they store it and index that data, it's going. Google are promising it's going to be extremely fast and better to access. So that'll bring a lot of benefits. The implementation simplicity. So because it's easier to just get for everyone to understand the concept of an event and not worry about much else, and the proper parameters that go with that event, people will be able to implement it. The quality of people's implementations is likely to be higher, and people will get more out of it as a result. And finally, well, there's lots of benefits, but the final one I'll talk about here is, if it's easier to understand that underlying data set, it's going to be easier to analyze it and report on it. Like I said, people can make mistakes and come across kind of problems with the current Google Analytics if you don't fully understand, the data set behind it. So that should kind of all go away. Another massive feature is the ability to extract hit level data into BigQuery. So for those, and you can do this for your standard accounts or your 360 accounts. So currently you can do this with Google Analytics 360 and extract into BigQuery. For those that don't know, BigQuery is Google's data warehouse, cloud-based data warehouse solution. Once that data is in there, you can do what you want with it. You can just, you could just sit and look at it. You can analyze it, join it with other data. You can run machine learning projects on it to get more out of that data. The limit of what you can do with it is really the limit of your SQL knowledge or ability with these kind of platforms. So that's a massive bonus, and like I said, there's a lot you can do with that, and I'm just going to kind of talk you through one example of something we've done recently for a kind of high street retailer. So, you know, when somebody transacts on a website, we always try and encourage things like, you know, for that transaction to output a lot more richer data, not just the transaction ID and the value, but more information around, is it a credit card or a PayPal payment? Is it a first-time purchase or a repeat customer? You know, if it's a repeat customer, how much have they spent today? There's a lot of information you can get, but that information has to come from the CRM. And if your CMS and your CRM aren't tightly enough integrated, you can't get that information on the thank you page in time. So kind of an example of a solution that we've recently done is we send that hit level data into Google's BigQuery in kind of near real time. Every day we pull in CRM data, the subset of data that we need to do what we need. And then every time a transaction occurs on the website, we analyze that. We run an algorithm that will take that transaction, look up the user that has made the transaction, you know, find out about the transaction history and send information back about that transaction to enrich that data. And with that, we can send things like a first-time transaction event. That's a very powerful metric if you're trying to recruit new customers. With that, you might run some kind of machine learning algorithm that can predict the lifetime value of that transaction. So, you know, the value of it, the types of products, etc., along with other dimensions, previous transactions, and the like, what they've spent so far. So that's a really good example of how you can use the data, join it with other data, and get something really powerful out of it to kind of supercharge your implementation. And the last kind of feature that I'm going to mention is you know, when you implement app and web, whether it's using the Firebase app SDK or the website implementation, you get the ability to kind of just implement these out-of-the-box events. So I'm showing you here a simple way of implementing certain out-of-the-box events with the website tracking, with the website library. But there's a very similar set of app-specific events with the Firebase SDK that powers the app side of things. So, yeah, so that's kind of a few of the big differences, and there's a lot to get excited about now. I'm going to hand over back to Jimmy, and he's going to run through a few specific demos of the interface and reports.
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, before I just run through the feature demo, I just wanted to reiterate really that App plus Web is a beta product. So that means it's not the finished article yet. Google have an extensive roadmap, big plans for this product. So expect to see, you know, lots of new features coming on board very soon. Despite that fact, there's an awful lot in there that's really good right now. So I'm just going to concentrate on a couple of those today. One such feature is the Analysis Hub. Those of you that are Google Analytics 360 customers you will have had exposure to this. This is a feature that is in GA 360. However, there are extra reports and analysis projects that you can do in app and web that are not available within the GA 360 version. These include funnel analysis, path analysis, just path analysis, cohorts, and user explorer. Funnels is in GA 360, sorry. This feature is excellent. So for those of you that use analytics quite often, you'll find that in standard universal analytics, the standard reports that are in the product within the platform user interface are often very prescriptive, and you know, if you want to do some further digging and analysis, you might have to export that data and manipulate it yourself. Whereas this is an in-platform solution to exploration of data. So it's really intuitive and easy to use as well. So I will dig right in. So you should be able to see a funnel analysis report. So You might be familiar with funnels from enhanced e-commerce checkout funnels, or whether you might have custom funnels in GA360. The difference with this type of funnel analysis is that it's user defined. So it means that you specify the steps to the funnel, and you can also explore different dimensions and filter this funnel as you wish. With standard funnels in previous versions, so the enhanced e-commerce checkout or custom funnels, they actually require implementation, and that means that they only start working, or you can only start gathering data in these funnels upon implementation. So there's no historic look back. The day that you set a funnel up within App and Web, you can explore data historically. So that's a really positive move from Google on this one. So this is, I've opened a standard funnel report here. You can see this is an e-commerce checkout. This is actually on Search Laboratories data. So this is our own website. We don't have an app. I must sort of reiterate that App plus Web is not just for people who have app and website. It's really good for people who have just a website as well. What I will do though is dig into a more simplified funnel to demonstrate the features of App and Web. So this is a really basic two-step funnel. So you have in the interface, you have the ability to set up your own steps in the funnel. So what I've done here is create a two-step funnel, and the first step is just an event. It is the first visit event that has been triggered. The second step is whether it's a combination of two events. So it's whether somebody downloaded a file or submitted the contact form. That's really good that we're able to define either of our two main conversions on the website as the second step in the funnel, without having to create two separate ones. So you can get really complex with the definitions of the steps, but I've kept it quite simple for now. So as you can see here, of the first time users that reach our website, our form completion rate is only 0.49%. What you can do though is you can dig deeper. So I could drag and drop a dimension in here that might be channel or gender, country, and then it would segment that group of users and show me the completion rates across those. I won't do that right now. You can also, what I will show is segments. So segments are similar to segments in standard analytics right now. They're user defined, and you can create them based on any definitions as you wish. So I've created a couple of custom segments here. I'll just show you the ones that I've created. So Paul has actually implemented an event that fires upon somebody scrolling on any page on our website. So I've created two segments. One is a scrolled, quite simple, and then one is a not scrolled. So what I can do is actually drag and drop those two segments into the funnel, and I can compare those different sets of users and how they behaved in this funnel. So it's not a surprise to anybody that people who scrolled actually are much more likely to fill the form in. A practical application of this, this particular situation, and there will be many more in-depth, more sophisticated analysis that people will do in this, but we can see that almost, if somebody scrolls, they're almost 4 times more likely to fill a form in. This might give us a more targeted, efficient way of remarketing. So people who haven't scrolled are more likely to be much less engaged, less relevant. The scrollers are going to be much more engaged with our content. Therefore, we can potentially base our remarketing strategy around people who have scrolled as an engagement. So we want engaged users. So we're not spending too much money remarketing to people who you know, are not as relevant. So a really good feature of this this tool as well is if you right click on the the completion rate of scrollers, for example, so people who undertook that action, you can build the audience straight from the funnel analysis. Once you've built the audience, you can send it straight to the advertising platforms such as Google Ads or DV360, or even create a segment that you can use in Optimize 360, and then yeah, you can personalize or remarket specifically to that group of users in a matter of seconds and doing the analysis. I will just jump back into the deck. So that's funnels, you know, identifying issues to improve checkout process, etc. The second one, this is an app and web feature or only feature. This is I'm really excited about this tool. It's path analysis. There were previous like user flow and things like that in the previous version of analytics, but they were quite rigid in the way that they worked. This is very fluid, and the level of path analysis that you can do in this type of tool is, you know, you previously would have had to have you know, do this in BigQuery using hit level data. So it's a real step forward is this, and use cases for this tool might be to locate website usability issues. So you could uncover looping behaviors of various users, or you know, pages not found and error reporting. You can also understand elements of successful journeys and incorporate that into your website optimization strategy. So again, I'll just jump back into the platform itself. So here's the main analysis hub, and you can see path analysis. If I just click on that, it should open me a new analysis. Just wait for that to load. So it starts with a three-step process, and each step is an event. So here we've got the session start and a page view, and then, you know, events that occurred after those. So I can change what my starting point is. So in this case, I'll change it to a first visit. So it should change. Yep, there we go. So all first visits. And then if I can drill into this and then change not just what event, the event name, I can change it to a page title. So I can now see the first visit, which page title first visitors hit, and it orders them, and you can drill deeper, but it shows the most important first. And then you can just click on these and drill deeper into these journeys and understand how people are actually, you know, navigating your website. So a really good feature of this is, so actually I will look a bit more into this page not found. So people are basically finding our website, and the first page that they're hitting upon the first visit is not found. So what I can do here is I can reduce the number of nodes that are showing. So I'm just going to select that particular one, and then it'll reduce the clutter on that given page. And then what I can do as well is add a breakdown dimension. So if I overlay that, I should be able to understand now. You see, like right at the bottom of my screen, there's the sources of you know, the acquisition source of where the traffic, the users came from and my first visit. So you can see majority is organic, and then we see, you know, the other channels, so on and so forth. Organic contributed just 35, so I can click that actually and see that organic contributed 35 of those not founds. And then if I click on none, actually the vast majority of those not founds were most likely a direct visit. So we'd have to look in a bit more detail to that as what's going on there, but it's just to demonstrate what is actually possible using this tool. It's really, you know, I couldn't speak highly of it enough. And on top of that, it's not just forward pathing. We can do reverse pathing as well. So if you start the analysis again, you can either start from the starting point or the ending point. So if I click the ending point and I select an event name, so I've got a selection of the events that Paul's implemented, and I've actually got a contact. So I can now review of all successful contact form completions, how did they find us? So I can you know, drill a bit deeper in there, but also I could change these to the pages that these events occurred on. So as you would imagine, there's a thank you page, and then we have contact us. So drill a bit further, and you can see that, you know, the majority, well, the biggest portion of users followed a journey from web, you know, the home page through to contact us and thank you. Again, that's probably not insightful on the level that we're looking at things from Search Laboratory's perspective, but if you can imagine a large e-commerce website and with lots of hundreds of thousands of users, this could be really insightful as to and fuel, you know, what your approach is. And also we still have our breakdowns here that we can then see what are more frequent pathways and what channels are leading to those frequent pathways. So again, the possibilities with this one is endless. I will just hop into my final report. So this is cohorts. You might have seen this predefined cohort analysis in, I think it's still in beta in Universal Analytics, but this is again more of a WYSIWYG explorer type cohort analysis. Again, this is app and web only. So the cohort is defined as you wish. So there's on the left hand side there, you will see for definitions where you can say, right, I want to understand what users did after, I want to define the cohort by people who either came on a first touch or any event or any transaction or conversion. And then I want to see what that group of users did over a specific time period and performed the return criteria, which might be any event, any transaction or any conversion. Use cases for this analysis could be, you know, if you've got a time sensitive promotion, so you might have a weekend special or you know, a big pushover on downloading a given resource, then you can understand what those users did over that period over the subsequent days or weeks or months. You can also use it to inform your remarketing strategy, because then, you know, if you understand at what point is the most likely time that people are coming back, that might help you be able to you know, serve ads at the right point in time in somebody's journey. So again, I'll just hop out of this and back into the report. So this is a breakdown of, you know, users that met the first condition, which was the first touch, and then converted. So any conversion, so a conversion on our website could be a form fill, but it also could be an engagement. We have an engagement conversion too. So there's quite a lot of these. But you can see that the number of users that fulfilled that condition on the 13th of June and then subsequently went on to perform that. Again, the data is quite thin, but you can see across the top, it gives you totals. So you can see on day 7 and day 9, we've got users coming back and completing the return criteria on subsequent days. So again, this is really good for the reasons that I explained before. And likewise, you can drill down deeper into how people finding the website, and you can drill down into the acquisition source and how different people from different countries or browsers are interacting. So that's the in-platform demo for you. Just a little bit more around why is it so important right now. So what Google and ourselves are recommending to all of our customers is that now is the time. Don't wait for App and Web to come out of beta and be a ready product. Implement it now. The reason being is that you will benefit in months to come. You will be able to migrate to this as your primary reporting solution quicker. The reason being is that we would always recommend that before migrate, if you wait too long and then implement it, I wouldn't recommend migrating as your primary reporting platform until you collated enough historic data to make comparable decisions from. So at least 13 months worth of data to be then able to get the full benefits of that as your primary reporting platform. It also gives you time to wean onto it and get buy-in from various stakeholders and get trained up on using it. The other reasons are that right now there's some excellent features. As I said, there's those bespoke reports that are App and Web only. We've got the Google BigQuery integration for all, not just GA360. And finally, it's that unification of the user across App and Web and across different devices. So to summarize the workshop for today, it's App and Web, do it now. It's user-centric, it's complete measurement platform. You've got to build up your historic data so you can migrate to it sooner. And there's some excellent features in there already. So that is the end of the webinar, and it's now over to questions. So we do have one question. How long does it take to set up, and what's involved in the process? So I'll put that to Paul.
Yeah, sure. Good question. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the answer to that question depends a lot on what you've got and how it's currently implemented. So I suppose to give the simplest case would be you've got a fairly basic Google Analytics setup on the website only, and it's done in Tag Manager. And if that's the case, then it should be very easy to just create your new App and Web property and then set up tags kind of just within Tag Manager. Anyone that's used Tag Manager will know it's quite easy to do that, but you've already got the triggers and the data in Tag Manager to map these new tags onto. So if that's the case, between half a day and a day, by the time you've set up and done your QA and troubleshooted anything and done a bit of learning, so I'd kind of put aside a day at least to do that. It could be more complicated if you've got enhanced e-commerce, if you've got a very complicated web setup, and especially if you've not got a tag management solution like Google Tag Manager, it may be a little bit longer. So that's really about how you would it's just a case of retagging your website in that instance. If you've got an app, Google have done away with the SDK, the old SDK to track into Google Analytics now. So it may be that if you've got an app you've already migrated and you've got that and it's done and ready for you. But if not, then it's a case of planning out your implementation and getting your developers to implement the Firebase SDK and tracking what it is you want to track. But yeah, it could be anything from half a day upwards, really, based on how complex.
Okay, thanks, Paul. We do have another question. Where can I see if I've got the universal app and web, or the universal app and web implemented? Sorry about that. How do I know it's well implemented?
Yeah, so I mean, within the Google Analytics interface, in the property settings, you should be able to see in the property settings what the type of property that it is, and it will be in the same place as your Google Analytics. In the Google Analytics settings, there should be in those properties. You'll be able to differentiate between the two types. How do you know if it's well set up? That's a harder question to answer, I guess, and it's really about doing sort of a bit of good quality assurance, really. So whether you've got universal analytics or app and web analytics, it's really about going through a testing and QA process, which is about using tools in the web browser, and also we'd always encourage kind of reconciliations with if you're tracking sales, for example, we'd always encourage reconciliations with CRM data for your main KPIs, form submits or sales. But yeah, it's a harder thing to prove, but it's really a case of just going through a good QA process.
Okay, we do have another one. What advantage will I have over my competitors if I do this now? I can take that one, Paul, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, I think you'll get access to those reports that I just ran through. The insights that you can get from things like that will be invaluable. The other advantage that we've talked about already is basically you're going to be able to migrate quicker. So yeah, and the functionality and the extra features that are going to come on board are going to be really exciting. So you'll get access to them as soon as they come out. Quite a few questions today. So I've got another one. How much data do you recommend collecting to make some assumptions from? Be it a month, a year, or whichever. I suppose it's as good as the data that's coming through. If you're a large enterprise level website with lots of users, then you can get, you can make assumptions from that information pretty quick. It could be within a week, couple of weeks. If you're a smaller website with less users, then you're not going to be able to make those assumptions as quick. So it's all based on how much is how much volume you receive. We've got another one. And is there any greater benefit internationally of app and web, i.e. countries with higher app mobile usage?
I can take that if you want, Jimmy. I mean, yeah, I suppose benefit internationally. I mean, the app and web properties provide a massive amount of flexibility to track, customization. So if you've got an international website with different languages or different locations, there's the functionality to kind of customize your setup to understand those dimensions. I suppose you get the benefit of the app and web, the benefits we've already talked about. So if you've got countries that, developed countries that have got a high proportion of multi-device users, then the sooner you can better understand those as one user, the better it is really. In terms of, you know, internationally, I mean, Google Analytics, the current version is very good if you do it right, which we'd always kind of help with for international websites. But yeah, I mean, yeah, additional benefit internationally. It's hard to say really, but there's the flexibility you need definitely.
Okay, I think that's it. No more questions. So thank you for listening. If you need any help implementing App and Web, please do get in touch with us. So we'll say goodbye there. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everybody.